Myself, I was going to stop watching The View just because I know it's just such a terrible show but sometimes they just find ways to pull you in, don't they? They get people on there that are extremely controversial. Today they had Bill Gates, none other than the incredible Bill Gates. And I had to watch because, he's a philanthropist. They're all philanthropists. Billionaires are always philanthropists. But let's see what The View has to say. I might jump around just so you know.
The majority of his multi-billion-dollar fortune to global causes. Now he's sharing his journey and how it began in his new memoir, Source Code. Please welcome, for the very first time on The View.
Okay, we don't care.
President Trump took office, you had a 3-hour dinner with him, and that's more FaceTime than, as you say, you had with Joe Biden during his presidency. And by your account, you say that you were impressed with him. What are you able to share about issues you discussed? And since he's only been in office 2 weeks, but do you feel like what you discussed aligned with what you're seeing so far?
Well, my two priorities in talking to President Trump were the global health issues, particularly HIV and polio. The voters have a lot to be proud of. We've saved tens of millions of lives. The number of children who die at the turn of the century is over 10 million a year. Now down below 5 million, and things HIV medicines, malaria bed nets are responsible for that, and vaccines.
And vaccines, there you have it. Vaccines, that's what he wants to get to. Now, I want to remind people that Bill Gates is the same guy that was talking about how technically you could lower the population. And there's a video on the internet. Let me see if I could find it for you, because I find it very interesting that this is the guy that wants to talk about vaccines and saving people. Let's look it up. Talking about lowering population. Here we go. Let's go to this.
This is a very important question to get right, because it was absolutely key for me. When our foundation first started up, it was focused on reproductive health. That was the main thing we did, because I thought population growth in poor countries is the biggest problem they face. You've got to help mothers who want to limit family size have the tools and education to do that. And that's the only thing that really counts. Well, then I came across articles that showed that the key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health. And that sounds paradoxical. You think, oh, better health means more kids, not less kids. Well, in fact, what parents are doing is they're trying to have 2 kids survive to adulthood to take care of them. And so the more disease burden there is, the more kids they have to have that high probability. There's a perfect correlation that as you improve health, within a half generation, the population growth rate goes down.
Try to remember, this is the same guy just now talking about saving children, right? Saving people with bed nets and HIV vaccines and vaccinating people. I don't trust Bill Gates at all. I don't trust him. I believe that he, if anything, he's over in Africa because he doesn't like that population. That's just my theory. I believe he sees Black people, people of color, as a problem because they procreate. They have too many children. Same thing in India, same thing in China. These are places with high population. Well, China has definitely lowered their birth count, but India, not so much. India still has one of the fastest growing population. They just do. I mean, just look at the billions of people they have, in comparison to places like Japan that, barely are having children. And you don't see him over there. You don't see him worrying about this anywhere. He's pushing this mostly on the continent of Africa. You have to ask yourself why. So that, and there's another video I want to show you where he was talking about, and I actually did this video last year and it got taken down by YouTube because I guess they don't want you to talk about any of this stuff, right? They hate the fact that people are actually going and finding the old videos of Bill Gates talking about depopulation.
The issue that
Here we go.
really grabbed me as urgent were issues related to population.
In 1998, Dr. Zabin became the founding director of the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population Control.
For population control. Let's go here.
We see a lot of things that are going very well. Things like reducing childhood death and
things like
producing childhood death.
First we've got.
Anytime I see stuff like that where somebody's like talking and they make a mistake like that, it's almost like they put their own foot in their mouth. It's because that's what they really mean. producing childhood death.
Population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about
It's 8 point something billion right now, 2025. And this is March, the first week of March 11th, 2025. We're up to like 8 billion.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
We could lower that.
Now, if we do a really great job.
I mean, do we need any more explanation that Bill Gates does not like people? This guy doesn't like people, okay? He wants to lower the birth rate. He wants to reduce the amount of people in the world. So for them to be saying, oh yeah, he's, doing such a good thing because he's really looking out for mankind, it's a falsehood. So now let's go back to what he's saying.
Worms work there.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So,
Yeah.
with aid, people think, wow, how much do we give these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5%.
Such a lie. But let me explain. He was part of the people getting money. And that's why this is such a big deal. This is why he's on here advocating for a push to get people back to work, to doing these non-government organization funding, NGO funding. Bill Gates is one of those recipients.
It should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow, and still saving lives. Well, your Gates Foundation is the biggest funder of vaccines in the world.
In the world.
And a lot of people don't recognize that.
Yeah, and we
it
don't want
was
to.
key
We don't want
developing
it.
The COVID vaccine. That has made you, unfortunately, a target of all kinds of baseless conspiracies,
Okay.
including from RFK Jr., who apparently does have a worm in his brain. And
What a low freaking thing to say. I absolutely hate Sunny Hostin. Just a diabolical woman, a horrible person. You could see her evil. Look at her face. She's just an evil human being. Let's continue. Okay.
you spent the most sleepless nights worrying about pandemics. After COVID, has that changed? And if it has, what keeps you up now? Because we all need to know.
Yeah, the pandemic sadly was fairly predictable, and it won't be the last pandemic. The next one could be far more severe. I mean, this one.
This guy is like your typical doomsday. He's one of those people that just push death and destruction. Like he likes the idea of death and destruction. Who would say, who would even put that out into the ether? Like the next one's going to be worse. Only a person that is constantly thinking about death and destruction and likes it.
Leadership was a factor in getting that out quickly. And so when I spoke to him, I said, okay, here's some other medical innovations, including a thing called an HIV cure that could be accelerated.
I'm going to stop because this video is already too long, but Bill Gates is not a doctor. I want to point that out. He is not a medical doctor. He was never trained in medical school. He's not a scientist. He's a computer engineer. He's a computer dude, all right, that didn't even barely finish college. Not that that's a bad thing. But why is he in this forefront of our health? Okay? Why does he get a say in our health? Could it be because he's a billionaire? Could it be because he's got to be a time and point where we stand up for ourselves, people? This is everything I see with Bill Gates makes me want to literally jump through the screen. He's not a good person. This is a man that has a lot of evil intentions, and it shows in the way he operates. He's out here talking about, I don't even care what he has to say about Elon, to be honest, because it's like a billionaire talking about another billionaire. Does it really even matter? Most billionaires are looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for you and I. They're looking out for themselves. But you have to ask yourself, why does a person like Bill Gates effort into this space? Why is he so hell-bent on solving this problem when he's not going to live forever? Or maybe perhaps he thinks he will. That could be the biggest problem, is that a lot of these billionaires feel that they're going to be living forever. And who knows, maybe they have some agenda or some way to do so. Get them off the planet. I don't want to share the planet with them. That's what this guy screams every time I see him. It's like, I don't want to be around sick people and I don't want them spreading their infectious diseases to me. That's what it feels like when I see Bill Gates. He's a deplorable human being. Anyways, you guys tell me what you think. Remember to like and subscribe and to Tell me what you think in the comments about him being on The View. Very, very strange.